April 23, 1945, Berlin is burning. The city is blasted by Soviet artillery and aircraft in preparation for the final assault on the capital of the Thousand-Year Reich. Tanks roll into the suburbs. 50 feet below the garden of the Reich Chancellery, within the steel and concrete walls of the Führer bunker, Adolf Hitler contemplates his last days. With him are some of his most dedicated Nazis. Martin Bormann, his private secretary and executor of his last will and testament. Paul Joseph Goebbels, head of propaganda. And Heinrich Müller, ruthless head of the Gestapo. While Berlin is destroyed, building by building, each of these men must decide his fate, attempt to escape, surrender, or commit suicide. Who could possibly escape Hitler's bunker, and how? Only after the dust settles does one of the great mysteries of World War II begin. Some of these men vanish without a trace. The Battle for Berlin and the last battle of World War II. Commander of the Soviet armies, Marshal Georgy Zhukov presents his plan of attack to Joseph Stalin. It is simple and direct. Zhukov will launch an assault from bridgeheads on the River Oder, then attack from the Zalo Heights. A separate flank will curve around from the north and attack the city from the west. General Ivan Kanyev's armies will complete the encirclement with a move from the south. The Red Army gathers its awesome force of over 2 million troops, 14,000 guns, 3,000 tanks, and 1,500 rocket launchers. But in the Reich Chancellery, Hitler has determined that he and his men shall go down fighting. The battle is rapidly becoming one of the most terrifying in history. There is no possibility of surrender. The capital is prepared with 3 massive defensive lines. Anti-tank ditches and gun emplacements form a 200-mile line from the Baltic to the Czech border. Inside Berlin, 1 million German men are armed with 9,000 guns and 1,500 tanks. Numerous young and elderly volunteers of the Volkssturm, the home guard of the Nazis, readied to sacrifice their lives. Many are armed with the Panzerfaust, a handheld tank-killing rocket launcher. Formidable barricades are erected throughout the city. While the regime prepares to face the giant onslaught, plans are underway to move the entire Nazi command center underground. Hitler is entrenched in a massive air raid shelter built beneath the gardens of his Reich Chancellery. It is a fortress that will go down in infamy, the Führer bunker. Built in 1943, when Allied air raids on Berlin intensified, the offices and private rooms are 50 feet underground. Tunnels connect it to nearby buildings, and large concrete chimneys bring in fresh air. SS guards protect it around the clock. From late February 1945, Hitler sleeps in these cramped quarters. Hitler's private secretary, Martin Bormann, and his staff are housed in nearby bunkers, as well as Joseph Goebbels, Minister of Propaganda. By April, the seat of power has completely transitioned underground. while the city awaits the inevitable. April 14th. The assault on Berlin begins with a massive barrage of artillery, rockets, and aircraft. Soviet soldiers find it difficult to advance across the churned-up ground. Tanks that can do little in the soft soil become sitting targets for German counterattacks. Soviet losses begin to mount. Stalin fears he may be in danger of losing this last battle. He urges General Konev to take the city from the south, while Marshal Zhukov's men slowly and painfully reach the northern outskirts of the city. Hitler still believes he can stop the Soviet monolith. But just 2 weeks after the assault begins, the allegiance of Hitler's henchmen begins to crumble. Unbeknownst to him, many are considering their own fate. They must decide, stand with their leader, or attempt to escape. April 20th, 1945. Berlin is in flames, shattered by thousands of Soviet shells and rockets. Inside the Führer bunker, it is Hitler's 56th birthday. By now, he has lived underground for 3 months. Eva Braun, his mistress, is with him, despite his orders to stay away from Berlin. After many years with Hitler, Braun is determined not to abandon him now. The Führer has asked for no celebrations, but as in the past, Braun arranges a get-together of his well-wishers. It would be the last gathering of top Nazis. Joseph Goebbels is there, along with Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS. He has been appointed head of the Volkssturm, defending Berlin. The head of the Luftwaffe, Hermann Göring, also arrives. Göring was once declared Hitler's successor, but he failed to stop the bombing of Germany, and his status quickly declined. He is nervous in the Führer's presence. Hitler emerges from the bunker for the first time in weeks. He views a small delegation of Hitler Youth awaiting decorations for bravery. At his side is Arthur Axmann, commander of the Hitler Youth. Axmann remembers his conversation with Eva Braun.
During my conversation with her, from the way she talked to me about how some of Hitler's advisors, like Göring and Speer, had abandoned him, I got the strongest impression that it was absolutely her wish to be there with Hitler at this time. Then she said to me quite openly, I have come to Berlin to die at Hitler's side.
And Berlin is rapidly deteriorating. Some guests beg Hitler to leave immediately. and establish a Nazi stronghold in the Bavarian Alps. There, tunnels are already filled with supplies and weapons. Hitler could fortify his ranks and hold out against the final assault. But the Allies have received intelligence reports of this second underground fortress. If the Nazis reinforce this position, the war could drag on for months, with thousands more casualties. Hitler must be defeated in Berlin. Back in the bunker, planning begins for Hitler's move to the Alps. Head of Nazi Special Forces, Otto Skorzeny, is already scouting the area for men and supplies. But when he arrives, he finds the tunnels are completely empty. There are no armories. The Third Reich's last dream of defiance evaporated. Skorzeny knows the game is up. He drives to an Allied command post and surrenders to American troops. On April 21st, Hitler orders one final effort to halt the Russians. He believes he has found a surviving battle group only 25 miles north of Berlin, commanded by SS General Felix Steiner. Hitler threatens Steiner with death if he retreats. But Steiner fails to launch a counterattack. Hitler is enraged. He blames everyone for the failure of the Third Reich and declares that he is surrounded by traitors. There is nothing left for him but to die. Hitler orders everyone to leave the bunker and flee to South Germany, but he will stay. General Wilhelm Keitel, Hitler's chief military advisor, swears he will not leave Hitler. Martin Bormann, Hitler's private secretary, also objects, saying it is the first time he has disobeyed Hitler's orders. General Alfred Jodl, Chief of Operations Staff, is less servile. "I will not stay in this mousehole," he says. "We are soldiers. Give us orders to fight." Hitler replies, "Do what you wish." But some decide to attempt the escape. Two of his secretaries bid a tearful farewell. Goering and Himmler, along with several generals, leave the bunker, each with his own plan. Goering travels south with 80 members of Hitler's staff to the fortress in the Alps, but there is no garrison waiting for them. Himmler heads to a vacation spa 70 miles south of Berlin. There, he considers any means to save his own skin. Eva Braun asserts she will never leave Hitler. "If only my generals were as brave as you," he says. 46 men and women remain in the bunker. General Hans Krebs stays as Hitler's chief of staff and military advisor. Krebs lets Hitler believe in Phantom Army divisions. Allied air raids continue to hammer Berlin. Gas and electricity go down throughout the city, and there is little food left for its exhausted and frightened citizens. April 23rd, Hitler receives a telegram from Goering. In it, Goering refers to Hitler's declaration that once made him his successor. Now that Hitler is incapacitated in Berlin, he will assume command of the Third Reich. Hitler is furious and orders Goering stripped of his title and shot. He calls for General Ritter von Greim to replace Goering as head of the Luftwaffe and orders that von Greim see him personally. To do so, Von Greim must first get past thousands of Soviet troops and armored vehicles. He chooses pilot Hanna Reich, the only civilian to win the Iron Cross. Hanna Reich flies von Greim over Russian lines at treetop level toward the Reich Chancellery. Flak and machine gun bullets explode around them, and von Greim is injured. But miraculously, they land on a cratered avenue near the Chancellery. They are Hitler's last visitors. Von Greim is given his first order. Goering is not the only Nazi who has betrayed Hitler. On that same day, 70 miles south of Berlin, Himmler meets Count Folke Bernadotte, vice president of the Swedish Red Cross. It is the last of 4 secret interviews. Himmler has been discussing giving up concentration camp prisoners in exchange for an armistice. This is not the first time Himmler has betrayed his Führer. There is recently revealed evidence that Himmler sent a telegram to Winston Churchill in August 1944. Churchill destroyed the telegram, and we have no idea what it said. But it appears that Himmler prized saving himself above his loyalty to Hitler. When Hitler learns of Himmler's recent negotiations, he is outraged. He orders the arrest of Himmler for treason. He wants von Greim to hunt him down. Von Greim once again leaves with pilot Hanna Reich. Using a road as her runway, she must skim roofs and treetops to avoid enemy fire. Together, they fly out of Berlin to confront Himmler. They denounce him for treason, but there is little they can do. Himmler flees west. Back in Berlin, Hitler now turns on Hermann Fegelein, his SS assistant and husband of Eva Braun's sister. Fegelein has slipped out of the bunker, but is soon found dressed in civilian clothes, preparing to escape Berlin. Hitler assumes Fegelein is part of Himmler's plot. He is arrested, brought to the bunker, and stripped of his rank and honors. Fegelein is then interrogated by Hitler's feared Gestapo commander, SS General Heinrich Müller, one of the few henchmen Hitler can still depend on. Müller was trained as a policeman in the 1920s and became an expert on the German Communist Party. Heinrich Himmler rapidly promoted him within the SS until he became operational head of the Gestapo in 1939. Müller was closely involved with organizing the final solution. He also directed the investigation of the plot to kill Hitler, a ruthless purge of Hitler's enemies within the Nazi regime. During the last months of the war, Müller continued to round up Jews and send them to Auschwitz. And he ordered the execution of prisoners in Buchenwald concentration camp. Müller has been hunting down the enemies of the Nazi state with murderous efficiency. His dedication can still be counted on. Under Müller's interrogation, Fegelein admits he knew about Himmler's secret negotiations. Fegelein is given a summary court-martial and executed by an SS firing squad in the Reich Chancellery courtyard. Only a few of Hitler's closest confidants now remain at his side. Among them, Joseph Goebbels, Martin Bormann, and Heinrich Müller. Only one thing is now certain: the Red Army is upon them. Can anyone avoid Soviet retribution? April 26th, Berlin. Hitler wakes up to massive Russian artillery and aerial bombardments. It is the final blow. The Soviet 8th Guard, under Marshal Zhukov's command, is the first to break into the city. Fighting block by block, they begin their manhunt. They are met by Panzerfaust anti-tank rockets, fired by German youths and old men of the Volkssturm. This last-minute resistance enrages Soviet soldiers into even greater acts of brutality. Guns are fired at point-blank range into buildings. 2 days later, Soviet troops ready themselves for a final assault on Hitler's Reich Chancellery. In the early hours of April 29th, Joseph Goebbels, his wife Magda, and their 6 children join Hitler in his bunker. SS guards have deserted the fortress. There is no one left to protect it. Only Hitler's female secretaries maintain any semblance of normality. Hitler dictates his last will and political testament to his secretary, Traudl Junge. Martin Bormann, his faithful private secretary, is named his executor and is entrusted with the care of Hitler's family and that of Eva Braun. Hitler names Admiral Dönitz his political successor. He will become president of the Reich and supreme commander of the armed forces. Goebbels is nominated Reich Chancellor. Bormann, party minister. Hitler wants Goebbels